For those of you who don't know me, my name's Laura Bugden, and I am chairing the meeting because we are rudderless. We don't have anybody who has stepped in as chair following John Haidu's retirement last year. So here's a general call out for anybody who would like to come in and step up to the plate. We'd be delighted. If anybody would like to become more involved generally, you don't have to chair the association. We'd be delighted. If any of your neighbours you think would like to do it, then let us know. Hence, I'm sitting here in the chair. My role within the organisation is looking after the membership and doing general admin. Now, before we start, I'm joined here by Jacqueline Servin, who is our Honorary Treasurer, and this chair is for our Honorary Secretary, John Crompton, who's on holiday and can't be here, and is having a wonderful time, so we're very happy for him. We have been very fortunate hitherto in being able to rely on the support of somebody called Patricia Pearl for many years, who has examined our accounts. And Patricia is not here, but I want the record to show that we are very appreciative of her support for us over the years, and she has stepped down from independently examining our accounts to put her feet up. We do have somebody to replace her. I now turn to the formal business of the meeting, notice of which has been given. The minutes of the 75th annual general meeting, which were held last year at about this time, are lying around somewhere. If you would like to read them, they are not riveting reads, I have to say, and this year's minutes will look remarkably similar to last year's minutes. But they are here for the record and we need to approve them. Does anybody have any objection to those minutes?
I haven't seen them.
Right. Well, the members of the committee who are here have seen them, and on that basis we will approve them from the members of the committee. The committee, of course, does all the active work of the association, and I can now report on what we have done over the last year, and I will do that by reference to the reports that our committee members have sent in. These are all on our website, Muswell Hill and Fortis Green Association.org, and I think
they were sent out, weren't they, as well, to members? Yeah.
They were sent out by email.
Yeah. I have copies for anyone who'd like a copy.
If anyone would like a real live copy.
Maybe I have to share them.
Now, John Crompton, who I mentioned earlier, is our Honorary Secretary, but he is also our representative on the Conservation Area Advisory Committee of Haringey. He reports that he also chairs it, but is keen to attract new members. So if anyone is interested, you can get in touch with John via our website. If you're unsure about how to contact the association, send an email to info@mhfga.org and it will get to us, she says confidently. John reports that Muswell Hill is a vibrant shopping centre and delightful town in which we live. Although he laments the closure of the banks, we lost Halifax and NatWest in this last year. John reports that there is continuing to be pressure to build on or near our open spaces or to find new uses for land. And he cites the example that the council has granted permission to demolish the garages behind a block of flats called Linton Grange in Fortis Green. That way? That way, yes, yeah. And they've given them permission to replace that with 5 houses. There's also an application to build 9 houses on the Grove Tennis Club site in Cascade Avenue on the Rookfield estate. The association has objected to that, along with a lot of other residents, but it does go to show the pressure on land. Our planning is looked after by our colleague Nick Barr, and what Nick does is he reviews all the planning applications that go into Haringey relating to the Alexandra, Fortis Green and Muswell Hill wards. He reviewed 337 applications. The Haringey planning website has been updated and changed, and it is slightly difficult to get around. One of the issues that Nick has come across is that if an application is lodged and objections are raised, the council may then go back to the applicant, and the applicant may submit revised papers, and those papers are not then reviewed by anybody who presented the original objection. And he's come across a number of instances of that. One of which was at 10 Ellington Road, where there was an application to demolish the existing GPO buildings and put up 5 replacement residential units. There was a lot of local objection, and the local authority asked the applicant to put in revised papers, which they did, and the authority just then gave them approval without anybody knowing what they'd said. One of the other live issues that Nick is looking at is the Fortis Green Tennis Club. And the landlord has applied to demolish the existing clubhouse and erect 5 new houses and a new clubhouse with flats above. This is called, so the site is between the southern boundary of Fortis Green and the north of Cherry Tree Wood. Now, the association has met with the club and are working with them to see if we can get the application to be a bit more acceptable. One of the things that the association is delighted to do is look after our environment, and Brian Livingston is our member who is in charge of the living world, as we like to call it. So what Brian does is he does the flower boxes on the Broadway and the cattle trough opposite the library, the Colney Hatch Lane beds, which is just by the Shell garage. How lovely to have beautiful background music. And those beds down on Colney Hatch Lane, we've done a lot of work on those. Pruning the shrubs and weeding. Now, last year, it was our 75th anniversary, and Brian did a huge amount of work to try and get something to mark the anniversary. And one of the things he did, which I hope you've all seen, is that the flower beds outside Cook on the Broadway have been completely replanted and new benches have been put in. That was to celebrate our 75th anniversary. Brian would very much liked to have had the Pocket Park, which is that little space opposite the Village Green pub, much loved of Fortismere students at lunchtime, to have a lot more work done there. But the local authority has got some resourcing issues and not as much work has been done there, but Brian is still chasing it. The other thing that we are working on is to have a new tree on the roundabout where the buses are to celebrate the association's 75th anniversary. The local authority has agreed to that and plans are in place, but there's a slight hiccup in that the local authority can't get their truck in to plant the tree while there's buses there. And of course it's a bus stand, so anyway, there's bound to be a solution to this at some stage, and if there is, Brian will find it. Brian deals with the parks, Haringey's Parks Department a lot, and their staffing issues continue unabated, we're afraid, which means that, you know, fewer things can be done. Brian keeps in contact with Veolia, who have the contract to do the street cleaning and the rubbish collection. And one particular member got in touch with us recently to say that there was a lot of rubbish in Barnard Hill, which is just off of Coneyhatch Lane. And Brian was able to contact Veolia, who went down there, cleared up the rubbish, and arranged extra monitoring of the site. Potholes are a subject close to quite a few people's heart, and Brian and Chris, actually, who looks after our highways, are talking to Haringey about repairing potholes. Potholes don't just affect cars, they affect bicycles and people with pushchairs, people with mobility problems. One of the very exciting things that Brian wanted to bring to your attention is that two members of the association came up with the idea of planting trees in the Broadway to green up the area. And the idea is to have around 20 new trees planted. Brian's held meetings with Alex Fraser, who's Haringey's Tree and Nature Conservation Manager, and they are working to establish suitable sites. There will have to be some consultation around where those trees go, and the association will make sure that all of its members are kept fully informed of that. Chris White looks after our transport and highways, and he's raised awareness amongst members about how they can make official complaints about illegal or antisocial driving in the area. He's also continued to make representations to Haringey across several transport and highways related issues, including parking provision in Muswell Hill and the perpetual presence of delivery driving mopeds on the Broadway. Duncan Neal is our representative on the Board of Trustees of Alexandra Palace. And Alexandra Palace celebrated their 150th anniversary over the course of last year. They had a lot of celebrations, many of which were free to attend, and they had a parliamentary reception this month hosted by our very own Catherine West.
Perfect timing.
Thank you very much. I'm glad delighted you've taken some time out of this busy time. Now, at Alexandra Palace, they host events such as the darts, the fireworks, as well as productions in the theatre and park run. They have an increasing number of creative learning projects for school children and young people from across the borough in the park. They have festivals. I'm sure you will have seen the advertising material for the festivals all over the place. And this year, the Kaleidoscope Festival will take place on the 13th of July. In addition to having Duncan Neal on the board of the trustees of Alexandra Palace, John Crompton also sits on the Statutory Advisory Committee. So if any member has anything they'd like to raise about the park, please do feel free to contact either Duncan or John. Contact details are easy to find on the website. Events. Well, other than the highlight of the year, the annual general meeting. Last year, Nigel Clark, our outgoing events manager, organised a number of events which were very well attended and very enjoyable. And he has stepped down, and we're delighted to welcome Della Dean, who has taken over the role. Della has sent out a survey to ask members what their views are and what sort of events they might like. You can find a link to the survey on the website. And there's one on the back of the leaflet that you may have received through the post. If anybody would like to fill out the survey and doesn't know how to, please speak to one of us afterwards. Last year we organised a really lovely walking tour of Queenswood, and it was led by Lucy Roots. Queenswood is a fantastic resource and it was a delightful event. We also had a walking tour of Alexandra Palace led by local resident and member Julian Woodfield, who's an experienced and qualified guide. He took us around the tour of the early television broadcast, the wartime increment, the nuclear bunker. And it says here the more recently lost ski slope. That was quite a long time ago, actually, the ski slope went, I think. The Muswell Hill Sustainability Group also hosted a thought-provoking and insightful presentation on climate change in our environment. We look forward to welcoming you to events in the forthcoming year, and these will be sent out to you via email and they'll be on our website. The membership of the association, as of the 20th of May, stood at 475 household members, 67 corporate members, and we have honorary life members, we have honorary council members, RMP, we have a number of people who've got honorary life membership. They amount to about 20. The membership growth probably is slowing slightly. We get big surges in membership if there's a big planning issue going on. People tend to join because they want to know what's going on. So if you are able to spread the word amongst your neighbours and friends, do tell them about the association and the work that we do in making sure that this delightful area that we live in stays as delightful. Zoe Norfolk looks after our social media, and for those of you on Facebook and Instagram, you will no doubt have seen her. She has 2,741 followers on Facebook and 1,767 followers on Instagram. Zoe does a fantastic job in putting out really interesting information about the local area. Sometimes Zoe's a well-known local photographer. She takes fantastic photos, and she oh, that's interesting. Zoe says that there was a big increase in her Instagram followers when she posted a video of masonry falling from a building on the Broadway, and the Ham and High picked up her video. It may be slightly overstating it to say it went viral, but it was almost there. We have a notice board on the Broadway by the new beds and the new benches, and Zoe looks after that for us, and she puts up posters from our members. It's nice, our corporate members, we can get corporate members in by saying that we can put an advertisement for their business on the notice board, as well as on our Instagram feed. I have spoken about the website. Alex looks after our website, Alex Vincenti. It's a very good organic website. Alex does a very good job of keeping it fresh. There's a new catch-up page, there are videos, there are lots of great photographs. There's a section of shop fronts before, over the years. I don't know whether many of you saw, last year Zoe did a series of pictures with postcards of which she held up in front of the current view and the postcard was a view of 70 years ago, and those are fantastic, and those are on our website. You can also see the book Muswell Hill and Fortis Green Association, a history of its campaigns and landmark achievements. There are some copies there if you'd like one. You're very welcome to one, but you can read it on the website as well. Last year, Alex reports, we had over 3,200 visitors to our website, mainly from the UK, but we do get visitors from all over the world. China, America, extraordinary, fantastic. Alex, thank you very much for all that you do on the website. Now, the officers of the association need to be elected. This is going to be quite a short section of the proceedings because we have nobody who has stood forward to be chair. We have nobody who has stood forward to be vice chair. The other officers of the association are treasurer and secretary. Both Jacqueline and John have said that they are willing to stand again for the forthcoming year. And I would like to propose that they both be elected. Would somebody like to second that? Thank you. Does anybody have any objection to the election of Jacqueline and John? No? Well then, they are elected. Thank you very much for your sterling work and all that you do for the association. It's really appreciated. Thank you. The committee of the association comprises. Why do I not have it here? Yes, I do. The committee comprises, in alphabetical order, Nick Barr, who looks after planning, Laura Bugden, who looks after membership, Duncan Neal, who looks after Alexandra Palace for us, Brian Livingston, who does all the environmental work, Zoe Norfolk, who's sitting at the back, Alex Vincenti, Chris White, who's standing at the back, and Della Dean, who has just agreed to join our committee to look after events. Now, rather than propose each of those individually for election, I think it might be more sensible if I propose them. Please do. Okay. Now, but I won't propose me.
No,
because that
this
is
is why I'm proposing you.
Other than me, I would like to propose that all those individuals whose names I have just read out are elected to serve as committee members for the forthcoming year. Could I have a seconder for that? Thank you very much. And does anybody object to this proposal? No. Well then, that is carried. And now, what I would like, thank you very much for that, I'd like to now hand over to Jacqueline to propose that I be elected to the committee. Would you mind?
May I propose you to be elected for the committee?
Do we have a seconder? Thank you. Are there any objections? That would be really embarrassing. Thank you very much for that vote of confidence. That means the whole committee is elected. Thank you. Now, I would like to hand over to Jacqueline, who will give us her treasurer's report.
All right, if I may stand up, because this is the way I do it. We finally moved from spreadsheet, manual accounts, to digital, thanks to the bank who provides a software. And my thanks go to Alex, who has been really helping a lot, researching what sort of system was going to be best for our needs. So this is going to be year one on this new account system. And from next year, we'll be able to give comparative figures. But for this year, for the moment, this is raw as it is. Now, every account has got receipts and expenditure. Now, starting with the receipts are mainly coming from membership subscriptions. Thank you to all. And that represents about 5,750 or so pounds of our income. Now, this is more or less the same amount as we had last year. Now, also, apart from the subscription, we have, sorry about this, we have generous members who make a donation. And thank you for all the members who add to their £10 annual membership. Now, these members point out that they like this money to be used mainly for the environment, the flower boxes and the plants. And we do implement that in the expenses when I'm going to come to that. And now these are the donations represent what, £315. And apart from that, the income we have come from interest from the savings we have in the bank. So this interest represent £280 from the reserve account and £131 from the liquidity account, which we opened earlier this year. Now, how do we spend the membership money that we receive from you? Which is the benefits that you get from being a member, right? So the main expense, and particularly this year, is in printing. Now, printing the books last year when we were celebrating the 75th anniversary. And otherwise, we print newsletters as well as sending them by email, because we know that many people like to handle the printing issue. So some of them receive them on request, but they're also distributed. I think every issue we have 185 copies of the newsletters, and they're distributed in pubs, in restaurants, or in eye-catching areas in this locality, and you can pick them up. And this comes to a total of 2,000, just over £2,000. Now, the next big expenditure is venue hire. We have AGM, we have committee meetings, we have members meeting, and we have all sorts of venues that cost and come with refreshments and so on. We have talks, so we give something to the speakers as well. And that comes to just over £1,150. Then last year in particular, we made a lot of donations as it was the 75th anniversary. There was a donation to the food bank that came to £295. A bigger donation to a school, Norfolk House, and various vouchers and gifts. We had prizes, we had competitions, and we had donated money through this as well. And donations themselves were just under £1,100. The plants and flowers, as I said before, I mean, the money that are donated, well, we spend a little more, obviously, and this year came to £344. And then the other expenditure we have come from the charges that are made when you pay by card or when you pay by direct debit. My card is PayPal, and they have a charge, and so has the bank through direct debit. And the total charges come to just about £110 every year. Now this is the main expenditure that is done, which represents almost £5,000. Then we have admin expenses. We have to renew the membership software that we use. That's £140. We've got to renew the insurance. That's £112. And then we've got the odd stationery telephone expenses, but that only comes to £68. And then for the sake of our planning officer and John Crompton, we have a subscription to the London Forum. Now that makes an operating profit at the beginning of this year, or at the end of the last financial year, if you like, of £1,165, which is just what I like to have in the current account. Now, as was said earlier, the previous examiner, Patricia Pearl, didn't do the accounts this year, so we had the kind offer from John Denham, who is not here this evening, to review the accounts. So he very kindly looked through the books, the bank statements, all the expenses and corresponding receipts and so on. And he was able to confirm at the end of it, seeing a report, that they fairly present the financial position of the association at the end of the financial year, which was the 30th of April 2024 this year. It was a few weeks ago. And that's about it. We thank him, we thank everybody for that, and we thank you in particular, our members.
Just to clarify, the accounts have been done this year on our new system, but we do of course have last year's figures to compare them with, although they're just in slightly different formats. Jacqueline, thank you very much. Now, on the subject of independent examination of our accounts, as Jacqueline said, they were done by John Denham, who may not be entirely independent since I'm married to him. And he volunteered to do that. There was only a minor amount of arm twisting required, and he is a qualified accountant. Now, our constitution requires that we elect the independent examiner of the accounts, and I'm sorry that he's not here, he's at another event. But in his absence, I would like to propose that John Denham be the independent examiner of the accounts for the association. Could I have a seconder? Thank you. Does anybody object to that proposal? Great, that proposal is carried. Thank you, John, in absentia. But what I would like to do now, for those of you who don't have to rush off, and it is still light, which is so delightful, isn't it? If you would like to join us for a little drink and a nibble, we will adjourn and I will formally close the meeting. Thank you very much for coming.